Welcome to our new series of do's and don'ts of studying abroad. Today we'll be talking to you about the do's and don'ts of applying for a visa, specifically the visa you need to study in the UK. Hi there, my name is Wenwen. I work at University Partnerships and we help students apply for universities in the UK and US. We get a lot of questions from you guys about how to apply for a visa, what documents you need, how long it takes. So today I'm going to try to answer some of those questions. Let's get started. Let's start with Priya S, who sent us a tweet saying, "Hi, I live in Singapore. My dream is to study in London and meet the Queen. My flight is in 4 weeks. Can I get a visa before?" Well, the honest answer is maybe, but you're quite brave for having booked your flight before getting your visa. How long it takes to get your visa depends on loads of factors, for example, where you're from. Someone like you from Singapore can pay an extra fee to get a priority visa service, meaning UKVI can make a decision on your visa in 5 days or even 24 hours. Loads of factors to consider, like I said, where you're from, but it can also be more complex if you've had a visa refusal, for example. Before you can even apply for a visa, you will need to get a confirmation of acceptance for studies or CAS from your education provider. To get this, you need to have an unconditional offer. Once you have this, you might need to fulfill other criteria like a funds check or a credibility interview too. When you make your application, it can take the UKVI anywhere from a week to a month to decide on the outcome of your application. And it's really important to note that you might need to pass a credibility interview as well, where a UKVI staff will ask you questions about your studies in the UK. That was a lot of info, so let's recap. Do apply for your visa as soon as possible. You can use your CAS up to 3 months before your course starts. Don't book your flight and hope for your visa to come through. It's impossible to predict how long it'll take, and of course, your application isn't guaranteed to be approved. By the way, if you do want to visit the Queen, she usually hangs out around the Buckingham Palace, which is about half an hour from our Intu centers in London. Robert asked us via Facebook, "How much does it cost to study in Great Britain? Do I need to have all the money before I apply?" Well, it depends on where and what you want to study and how long your course will be. Basically, you will need to demonstrate to UKVI, stands for UK Visas and Immigration. These are the people who will decide the outcome of your application, that you can pay for your course fees and living expenses whilst you're in the UK. Course fees are easy. You pay these to your education provider before you arrive to the UK, and your education provider will note this on your CAS, or you can provide a bank statement or another financial document that shows you have the money when you make your application. I'll come back to that in a minute. How much money you need for your living expenses depends on the length of your course and where you'll be studying. Living in London, for example, would cost more than, let's say, living in Stirling. There are guides online with information about how much money you'll need to show each month. And you need to show this money for the length of the course that you will be studying. Back to what you can use to show to UKVI that you have enough money to fund your studies. As I said, you can use a bank statement, but there are some rules. The account needs to be in either your name, your mom or dad's name, or a joint account where you are one of the account holders. If you're using your parents' money, make sure you provide a birth certificate or proof that you're related. And they also need to provide a letter showing they're okay with you using their funds to study in the UK. Also, you need to have had the funds in your account for at least 28 consecutive days. UKVI want to be assured that you have stable funds in place to be able to support yourself without getting into trouble. The statement has to be less than a month old when you make your visa application. It doesn't mean much if you had the money last year, but don't have it now. If you can't get a statement from your bank that meets all the requirements, you could also use a bank letter or other forms of funding like sponsorship from international company or a government sponsor. If you have any questions about this, it's really best to ask your educational provider for help. Let's break this down into do's and don'ts. Do, make sure you understand all the rules and what you can and cannot do in terms of demonstrating you have enough funds to pay for your studies in the UK. And on that note, please don't be afraid to ask your education provider for help. They can look at your documents and tell you if they meet UKVI's requirements. We received this question from June Chen on one of our YouTube videos. What is this visa interview? I'm not good at tests. How can I prepare for it? I'm sorry to say that the interview is actually kind of like a test, but please don't be scared of it. The UKVI just wants you to show that you chose a specific course and this university that's the best fit for your study goals and life goals. Also expect that they might ask you questions about your funding or accommodation arrangements, so make sure you prepare answers for those. Any student applying for a Tier 4 student visa could also be asked to attend an additional credibility interview. This is more likely for students from certain countries, for example, Vietnam or Pakistan, or if you've studied in the UK before or had a visa refusal, for example. So let's recap all that info. Do think about why you want to study in the UK. It's such an important decision, and this is actually a good opportunity to think about all the reasons that you're making this choice. Don't stress too much about the interview. UKVI just wants to make sure you know what you're going to study and why. Please don't hide things from them or lie to them. They will probably find out, and it won't help your chances if they do. As a tip, I would recommend that you write down all the reasons why you want to study in the UK, why you chose the university and your course. This will actually help you prepare for the visa interview because it will help you structure your answers. Practice with a friend. Tell them what your goals and plans are. That way you won't be worried about stumbling over your words. Xiadia from China asked us via our Twitter channel, when can I get my CAS? Straight to the point, I like it. CAS stands for Confirmation of Acceptance for Studies. This is a number you get from your education provider that proves to UKVI your education provider is willing to sponsor you for your studies. You have to include this number on your Tier 4 visa application form. If you don't have a CAS number, you will not get a Tier 4 visa. So, how do you get a CAS? Your education provider will only give one to you when your offer is unconditional. That means you've met the academic, English language, and any other requirements they might ask for. Once you've met those, you'll be able to get a CAS. So to answer your specific questions, Yadia, you probably won't be able to get a CAS at least 3 months before your course starts. This is the point at which UKVI will allow you to make an application with that CAS. It's also really important to note that you can only use your CAS number once. If something goes wrong and your visa is refused, you will need to get a brand new CAS number from your education provider. So let's break this out into do's and don'ts again. Do, make sure your CAS number is valid. You can only use this once and up to 3 months before your course starts. Don't forget to put your CAS number on your visa application form. You'll definitely be refused if you don't include one. Let's look at another tweet we recently got sent over. Oscar wanted to know, what is a TB test? Do I need this to study in the UK? Hi Oscar, you're right. There's a lot of jargon and acronyms you'll need to learn when applying to study in the UK. TB stands for tuberculosis, which is a very rare disease in the UK, but more common in other parts of the world. UKVI want people coming from these countries to prove that they don't have TB. You'll only have to take a TB test if you're from one of the countries that UKVI decides this applies to, or if you spend more than 6 out of the past 12 months in any of these countries. You can see a list of the common ones on the screen. If you're from one of these countries, you will need to go to an approved TB test clinic. This will usually be located in the country that you will be applying from. UKVI has a list of all the approved clinics worldwide on their website. You need to have taken the test within 6 months of applying for your Tier 4 visa and send your test result certificate with the rest of your documents when you apply. So to recap, your do's and don'ts for the TB test are: do, Check online to see if you're from one of the countries where a TB test is required. Don't leave it too late or do it too early. You need to have taken the test within 6 months of your application, but keep in mind that it could take weeks to get an appointment and also to wait for your results. We're nearly coming to an end, but we've got one last question. Maria asked us on Facebook, "My visa's running out in 2 weeks, but I want to stay in the UK. I like it here and I've made so many friends that I don't want to leave. I don't want to go back home yet. What can I do?" Well, Maria, you need to work pretty quickly if you've only got 2 weeks. You generally need a reason to stay in the UK if you needed a visa to come here in the first place. There's loads of different reasons. For example, you might have a job or you might want to stay for further study. Because there's so many different circumstances, let me focus on the further study for now. So let's say you've come to the UK to study an English course, you've improved your language skills, and now you want to enroll at a university on an academic course. Academic study is usually undertaken on a Tier 4 visa, which means you'll need to be sponsored by an educational provider with a UKVI license. You need to apply for a course, meet all the requirements, and get a new CAS for this new period of study. Remember, you can only use a CAS number once per application. Even if you're continuing studies with the same education provider, you'll still need a new CAS. Before you can make your next application, you need to make sure your current visa is still valid. So in a perfect world, you would have more than 2 weeks to get all this sorted. If the course you plan to do is a higher academic level than the one you've completed, for example, you've done an English course and now want to progress a degree, you can usually apply for your new visa from within the UK. But that's not always the case, so it's good to check on your individual circumstances. If you want to do a course at the same or lower level, or if you study at a private sponsor instead of at university, you need to leave the UK before your current visa expires and make your new application from outside. There's a lot to consider, so it's generally good to speak to both your current and future education provider if you're in this situation. Ideally, you'll still have time to go on your current visa. So let's do a last one of these do's and don'ts recap. Do: speak to a visa support officer at your education provider to make sure you are allowed to stay. They can also help you with your documents and guide you through the process. Don't leave it too late to sort out any further study plans you might have. And definitely don't stay in the UK once your visa has expired. You might find it really hard to ever get another one if you do. Well, those are great questions and a lot of information. I hope this helped you understand the visa process a bit better. If you have any other questions, please get in touch with us via email or through any of our social media channels. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I'll see you next time.